Imbalances in blood glucose levels can cause a myriad of issues, including moodiness, irritability, food cravings, especially for sweets. Maybe you're even experiencing depression or low-grade depression that you can't really pinpoint. If you're keeping on excess weight, even if you're eating well, this could be something that's an issue for you. And I want to take this video not only to explain to you what blood glucose is and how it functions in your body, but some basic tips for helping to keep your blood sugar in balance throughout the day. In order to understand the importance of blood glucose in maintaining our body balance, we need to understand what glucose is. And glucose is the easiest, simplest form of energy that our body can utilize as fuel. It's actually considered a monosaccharide, mono meaning one, sugar. So it's already in its simplest form for our body to use right away. Some glucose-rich foods that we get on a day-to-day basis include carbohydrates like breads and bread products, as well as fruit and dairy. All of these types of food are considered polysaccharides, which means they have a bunch of different glucose molecules attached in one big clump. So it gets broken down into glucose either way once we eat it. Complex carbohydrates like whole grains, as well as whole fruits, and even unprocessed forms of dairy are really, really nutrient-dense foods. If you tolerate them in your system, great, you should be eating them. They have lots of vitamins and minerals and all sorts of nutrients that are really great for us. Unfortunately, the bulk of the glucose that Americans eat in the traditional American diet are from added and refined sugars that are included in processed foods and fast foods. In fact, almost 50% of the added sugars that we are getting today are from sugar-sweetened beverages and sodas. From a blood glucose perspective, the traditional American diet is incredibly problematic. It's problematic because our pancreas is responsible for excreting a hormone called insulin. And insulin is responsible for regulating the glucose that we eat and regulating it in our blood. It either gets used immediately as energy, if we're thinking or running or doing things, it gets used as energy. Or if it's not being used immediately, it gets taken into our fat cells and or to our liver to be stored, and we end up accumulating fat. So not only is our excess sugar consumption contributing to the obesity epidemic that we see here in America, as well as in neighboring countries that have adopted the American diet, but we are also seeing a rise in type 2 diabetes. And one of the hallmark signs of type 2 diabetes is insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is if we are pumping so much sugar every day into our body, not only are we making it hard for our pancreas to even excrete enough insulin to deal with all of that sugar, but that constant pump of sugar is actually making our body numb to even being able to recognize insulin even being there to help us out. To put this in perspective for you, there are 34 million Americans who have diagnosed type 2 diabetes. That's a lot of people. And there are millions of other people who have what we call pre-diabetes, which means that they have elevated blood glucose levels but aren't quite at the ranges of being diagnosed as type 2 diabetes. This is a big issue, and type 2 diabetes is a preventable disease. This is related to diet, it's related to exercise, it's related to lifestyle and stress management. So if you look at the actual consumption of sugar in this country, the average American adult is consuming 77 grams of added sugar a day. Kids are eating 81 grams on average of added sugar a day. This is insane, you guys. This equates to about 60 to 65 pounds of added sugar every single year. According to the American Heart Association, the average male should not be eating any more than 36 grams of added sugar a day. Females and children under 18 shouldn't be consuming any more than 25 grams of added sugar a day. So that gives you some perspective of the disparity of how much sugar we're actually eating, and this is just on average. And please don't be fooled, you guys. I mentioned this in my video from last week, but healthy foods, healthy processed foods from Whole Foods or Erewhon or whatever, they have plenty of added sugar too. They just use a fancier form of sugar, usually in the way of cane sugar because it's more expensive and more natural. Our body doesn't discriminate against the sugar you're eating. If it's added sugar, it's going to treat it as added sugar. It doesn't matter if you spent $18 or 8 cents on it. Some early warning signs of blood glucose imbalance could be irritability. Anytime I hear anybody say that they get hangry, that's a first tip off that perhaps they have a blood glucose imbalance. Any type of erratic moods or moodiness, and this is included for kids too, could be related to blood glucose issues. Weight fluctuations or inability to lose weight could be related to blood glucose issues as well as stress management, which is directly tied to our ability to manage and balance our blood glucose. And anything related to fatigue or energy could be related to your blood glucose balancing throughout the day. So let's cut to the chase. What can you do about it? The first tip I have, and I mentioned this last week, is to examine the foods that you're eating. Turn around, look at the nutrition facts label, and see where sugar, if any, is listed in the ingredients list. If sugar or any form of sugar, including high fructose corn syrup, cane sugar, invert sugar, dextrose, whatever it is, if it is included in the first 3 to 5 ingredients of the packaged food or the food that you're buying, probably not a good choice. So do a deep dive, look into your pantry, see what may have hidden sources of sugar. Consider taking a fasting blood glucose test next time you're at your doctor's office just to see how your body is doing with your insulin levels overnight. Obviously, you'll have to go early in the morning and before you eat food, but knowing this number and also knowing your A1C number, next time you go to the doctor, ask them about that. These are important baselines to understand and better understand where your body is right now. I mentioned before that carbohydrate sources, especially from complex carbohydrates, fruits, and unprocessed dairy, are really great sources of nutrients, but they may not be tolerated well in your body. For instance, I found out recently that I actually don't tolerate oats very well, and it tanks my blood sugar. And this is something that I had to figure out over time. This is why I say your health journey is a process that has lots of different destinations. So consider tracking your food, consider tracking how you feel after you eat food. Food is supposed to energize you. It is supposed to give you long-lasting fuel throughout the day. If you are crashing in the middle of your day, if you are craving sweets because your blood sugar dropped all the way down, if you are feeling fatigued, or if you just feel really run down. I have a lot of people that say, I just felt so tired after that meal. Blood glucose related issue. When in doubt, eat whole foods. And by whole foods, I mean foods that are in their natural state. So complex grains like whole grains or whole pieces of fruit, not fruit juice. These foods are actually adding fiber into your diet too, and fiber slows down the uptake of glucose. So when you eat whole foods, you're also getting that important source of fiber that's helping to slow the absorption of glucose into our cells and gives you longer lasting energy. Similarly, try not to eat your carbohydrate or sugar alone. Try to pair it with either a fiber, like we just talked about, or a protein or a fat. So I talked about last week, if you want or need to have cookies, try pairing it with a fat like peanut butter, for instance. Or if you're going to sit down and have a piece of bread, have it with some olive oil, dip it in that good source of fat, or have it with some chicken, a good source of protein. That way you're not inundating your body with just sugar. You're helping to balance out your meals by pairing your macronutrients. Drinking plenty of water. This is hugely important for every cellular process in our body. But when we're eating excess sugar, our blood starts to get sticky and thick, kind of like syrup. So we need water to flush it through our system. Also, water helps to support our kidneys as our kidneys are helping to excrete that glucose in our urine. It's really, really important to stay hydrated. Try moving more in your day. And this doesn't have to be dedicated exercise. It can be walking or standing up more often or cooking or gardening or playing with your dog. Anytime that you move your body, that glucose gets taken out of your blood and gets utilized by your muscles instead. So this is really, really helpful in managing blood glucose levels. Stress management is critical in not only maintaining healthy blood glucose levels, but just in life. When we are stressed, we release hormones called glucagon and cortisol. And typically, when we evolved from needing those hormones when we needed to go fight or run, so blood glucose needed to be readily available to us, which means that those hormones actually block insulin from using glucose in your blood. It makes us insensitive to it. So nowadays, being chronically stressed, we constantly have cortisol in our system, which means our insulin isn't working as well. So it is really important for you to take a hard look at your life and see if there's any way that you can incorporate more meditation or relaxing or hanging out with your loved ones. Anything that's going to help reduce the stress in your life is going to make a big, big impact in your ability to lose weight, to feel better, to manage your glucose levels, the whole kit and caboodle. And my last bonus tip for you guys is to take the time to invest in learning what foods work well for your system. I mentioned earlier that I have an issue with oats. Oats are a really healthy food. They're not healthy for me. So this is going to be different for you. It's going to be different for your sister. It's going to be different for your boyfriend or girlfriend. Everyone is different, and it's worthwhile to take a few months out of your life to really dedicate to figuring out what your issues are, what works best for you. And I can help with that. By all means, please reach out to me. If you have any questions about blood glucose management, please reach out to me. But believe me, your moods will benefit, your energy levels will benefit, your mental capacity to be positive and well will benefit. So it's definitely worth your time to look more into this and to figuring out your own body. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Thank you guys. See you soon.